Welcome. You can take your seats. I expect people are going to start to arrive, but we want to get started with this wonderful program. And this is a night when we're, as you know, going to be celebrating an incredible pioneer in law, who we're very proud is one of our graduates. And this is a school that has had many pioneers, many people who have been first in a field or in an area of accomplishment. But without any further ado, I'm going to immediately ask somebody who's not only often first, but he's truly an original and one of a kind. I give you the great, the incomparable Professor Aaron Twersky.
First, I have to apologize because right after I finish speaking, I have to leave. There's a family obligation that I couldn't count on before, but I did not want to miss this opportunity. My formal task is to set forth Rachel's or Judge Freier's bio, and I can give it to you very quickly. She's a mother of 6 children and a grandmother. She went to Touro College and then came to Brooklyn Law School and graduated in 2005. At the law school, she did the Elder Law Clinic and the Corporate Real Estate Clinic. She started, after graduation, she started her own law firm. She founded a program for at-risk boys who had not had a high school education and got a general equivalency diploma. So she worked on that. She founded as Ezras Noshim a kind of a tzala operation for women. She worked as a volunteer in the New York City Family Court in their pro bono program. Those are just all facts. But what we're really celebrating tonight is a very remarkable woman. She has endless energy, endless ambition, and not ambition for her own sake, but when she sees something that needs fixing, she fixes it. Most of us, I live in a community, and I know that there are at-risk teenagers, and I click, I said, that's bad. But she went out and made certain that she could do something for them, that they got high school equivalent. She learned to be an EMT because it was important. When she was here at the law school, she sponsored, through her own finances and through her own work, programs on Hanukkah and Purim and Rosh Hashanah. And that was for the entire student body, not just for the Jewish students. She is simply a remarkable woman. She is now the first Hasidic woman as a sitting judge. But I want to make another remark. She is the first Hasidic judge. Unless I am missing something, I don't know of any other person who is a Hasidic judge. And that tells us something about government and our community. I don't know in the city of New York that there has been a commissioner who's a Hasidic Jew. It hasn't happened, not because they're incompetent. If they can run B&H Photo, which is the largest, photo supply company in the United States, maybe even in the world, they could run a government agency. We have hundreds and hundreds of accountants and lawyers and business people, and none of them ever been appointed to a city position. That's wrong. That's just plain flat out wrong. And it will be true not only of Hasidic Jews, it'll be true of Muslims, it'll be true of Sikhs. We apparently pay too much attention on what they wear on their head and not what's in their head. And it's time that that stops. It's great that Rachel broke the mold. And I hope she's the first one of many, not only women, but men and all the members of our community. We are a huge community in New York and almost no representation in government. I mean, we've got very, very fine representatives. Dov sitting here, Dov Hikind, is a great representative to our community. He looks out for us. He really does look out for us. But it's time that the mayor and the governor and the others start looking at this community. And every other community that is basically invisible. And if one looks at the civil rights movement, and I started my career in government in the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, the key point, well, major point that took place was when government began hiring blacks. There was visibility, and that's got to stop and start happening with all of what I call the invisible minorities. So, Rachel, thank you for breaking us in. We need a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Twersky. Professor Twersky, as many of you know, among many other distinctions, was recognized by the American Association of Law Schools with the Prosser Award for Lifetime Achievement in Torts. And upon receiving that award, he spoke similarly of how far we have come but how far we yet to go in terms of equal rights and equal opportunity, especially for people who are exercising the First Amendment rights to freedom of religion, freedom of religious observance. And it was a wonderful thing that he has that concern. I note that it's also a wonderful thing that he is, year in and year out, hands down, one of, if not our most popular professors here. So thank you very much. And I understand you have that obligation. Now I'd call Assemblyman Dov Hikind here for make a few, oh, there you are, right there, sorry. Please, it's all yours. 48th District. Vote early.
Doesn't matter what district. But anyway, Dean, thank you. I'm really delighted to be here, to have the opportunity to recognize someone who's extraordinary, someone who is an inspiration to people out there, even to me, an inspiration. You know, we go back a number of years ago, quite a few years ago, and one of the first things that, you know, that, I know it's Rachel, but I know her as Ruchi. I remember we did a radio show, my radio show, and she introduced something called, you know, it was sort of Hatzalah, the emergency ambulance services, where she was interested in making available to women, for reasons of modesty, whatever, that those who were interested in taking advantage of something like that, she was going to make it happen. Now, that may sound to each and every one of you like, okay, but let me assure you, it was one of the most courageous things that Ruchi did. When we did the show, I thought I was going to be a hero the next day. Who could possibly be opposed to the kind of thing, to what Ruchi wanted to do and actually did? Who would be opposed to it? Why would anyone object to that? And I found out literally within hours, within days, there were negative stories, and it was just unbelievable. Let me tell you about Ruchi. She works with young people. She has saved the lives of young people who needed a hand, who needed someone to listen and someone to show love, caring, simple thing. You know, we have kids out there who have issues. By the way, we have a lot of adults with issues. All of us, maybe, right? Everybody has their little package. But Ruchi didn't just go out there, you know, she didn't contribute to an organization. She created an organization. She brought these kids into her home. She took these kids to different events. She, you know what we call it? And we surely do not have much of this in our society. We have a lot of people with titles. We have a lot of machers. You know what machers is? It's an English word. You know, people who think they're important because of a title. We have very few leaders. People who see an issue, they don't put their finger out to see the way the wind is blowing. They understand there is pain, there is difficulty, there is a challenge, and they go out and they deal with that challenge and they make it happen. And that's what Ruchi is all about. That's what she's all about, making a difference in this world. Because at the end, as we say, after 120, nothing matters. Not the beautiful car you may drive, not the beautiful home you may live in, not the beautiful clothing you're wearing. Nothing matters at the end, only what you've done in this world, the good that you have done. You know, funerals that I go to, that we have to go to, there's only one thing they ever talk about. One thing they talk about, the individual who's not here anymore, all the great things that person did. Ruchi is an example of how you can make a real difference in this world. What it means to be a leader and go out there and change things. And she did it on many levels, including, finally, running for civil court judge. She is extraordinary. She is really extraordinary. These are not adjectives that I often use about too many people because I'd be exaggerating and I don't care to do that. Ruchi, I want to tell you that all those years, you know, you were thanking me. You were saying thank you for this, for that. All of that time, I would go home and say to Shani, I would say, what an incredible woman, period. Forget about Hasidic woman. Just an incredible person. So she is really, wow. That's really it. She is a lesson to men, to women, to society in general, to everybody, not just to the Jewish community. She doesn't belong just to the Jewish community. She belongs to New York. She belongs to America because she is the very, very best that God has put into this world. So her husband wants to clap. Were you about to? Yeah, okay. Why not? And let me tell you, you know, the family's here, her husband, the parents. You know, Ruchi didn't happen by herself. Without the support of her family, her husband, number one, parents who obviously, just looking at them, they're extraordinary people. What an incredible story. They're going to be writing books about you, Ruchi. And they're going to be writing about the good that you have done, the lives you have already saved at this point. Those young people that I talked to, that you influenced them. You didn't ask them for anything. All you did was give to them. So I am so proud. I just came down from Albany. I wanted to be here because I don't have that many extraordinary people that I can recognize. Ruchi, all the mazel, all the luck in the world. Thank you, Ruchi.
Thank you, Assemblyman. And now, from another pioneer, Brooklyn Law School graduate, Brooklyn Law School professor, federal judge on the Court of International Trade, and one of my bosses on the Board of Trustees, Judge Claire Kelley.
Thank you very much for letting me speak. I want to tell you, I try very hard to avoid events in the evenings because I have a young son at home and I like to be home with him. But I called and asked to come and speak tonight. And I wanted to come here to tell you a story that I've actually told many times, and you wouldn't know that I told this story many times, but you have been an inspiration, and I have told at least part of your story many times. Before I was a member of the bench, I was a full-time member of the faculty, and all the faculty teach both in the day and the evening. And so I taught administrative law, which I'm going to tell you just is the hardest course in law school. It's very dense, it's very complicated, it's all Supreme Court opinions, they never agree, and it's a lot of work and preparation. And so Rachel, Judge Freier, as I knew her then, Rachel, sat in the first row right in the middle. And she was always prepared. She was incredibly diligent, incredibly smart, incredibly thoughtful. She was an excellent student. And I knew that she must have been doing very well in law school because of that. So I was very impressed with her as a student. And knowing that she must have been doing very well in law school, during the breaks I talked to her a couple of times, and I said, so why'd you come to law school? What do you want to do? And she said to me, I want to serve my community. I want to go back and work with my community. That's what I want to do. Now, I didn't want to dissuade her from that, but the truth is, when you do very well in law school, you have many, many opportunities. You could be a federal clerk. You could perhaps go work for the government. You could go work at a big fancy law firm and make lots of money. So I mentioned that, and she said very politely, as she always was, she said, I really want to serve my community. That's why I'm here. And so I was very impressed with that. I was very impressed with her as a student. I was very impressed with her ambition and what she wanted to do. And then, we talked a couple other times, and I took a guess that maybe she had a family and children at home, and many of our evening students do. They have lots of other commitments. And I was so impressed by her level of preparation for class, I asked her how she balanced all that. I said, how many children do you have? And I remember she told me either 5 or 6, but it was a lot. And I said, wow. I said, you must have a lot to do. I actually don't understand how you could take care of a family with all the responsibilities that I knew that you had and be so prepared for class, in this class and your other classes. How do you do it? She said, well, my family is so supportive. My husband is very supportive. And then she said, but I could not do this without my mother. My mother does so much for me. I couldn't do it without her. She takes on so much of my responsibilities. And I thought, wow, I am really impressed with your mother. And I wanted to come here to tell you that I hope that I will be as good a jurist, as thoughtful, as careful, as dedicated, as I'm sure Judge Freier is going to be. And I hope that I will always be as good a mother as Sarah Gluck must be. Thank you for having me.
So much. It was beautiful.
I'll ask, now's the good part. We really get to hear from our honoree, and I'll ask Judge Freier to come on up and join me up here. And while you're making your way up here and getting comfortable, let me just say, first, I don't know where that music was coming from. It's a little early here to be having the hora, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on. But it is a celebration. So we've got quite a distinguished group of people here. We've got Rachel's parents, understand they're Makatonim, to use the other English word, father and mother-in-law, 6 children, 3 daughters-in-law, and 1 son-in-law, and many other friends and colleagues. So it's not the whole Muspuka, but it's pretty much, it's pretty good. Pretty good representation. Wonderful to have Dove here. You kept saying rookie. And spring training, so my mind was wandering a little bit. But I think you're ready for the major leagues, and certainly not a rookie in any sense of the word. we were going to we've got representatives from the mayor's office. We expect at some point the borough president, who's making his rounds around the city, the governor's office as well, and Kings County Criminal Court judges, Honorable Claudia DePeister, Honorable Inga Ring, class of '99, and the Honorable Elizabeth Warren. Also, New York judges that all have a very important Brooklyn Law School numeral after their name, the Honorable Bruce Balter, 75, New York Supreme Court, Kings County, Honorable William Ford, 99, New York State Supreme Court, Suffolk County, and the Honorable Marcia Steinhardt, 72, New York State Supreme Court, Kings County. If I've missed anybody, I apologize, and we'll recognize you appropriately if we have an opportunity. Just a few words. This law school has been a gateway for opportunity ever since its creation over 116 years ago. And you see the early class pictures. We have always had blacks, Jews, Italians, Irish, people of privilege, people who had a harder time in life and less financial background. We've always had children of immigrants, Asian Americans, Latinos, and we have a significant Muslim population in this school. We're very proud of that. We're a law school whose legacy has been shaped by pioneers. And just to mention a few, before we move on to hearing more from the pioneer that we honor tonight. Now, some of you might have read about Harvard Law School celebrating that this year Harvard Law School has the first black editor-in-chief of their law review. And they should celebrate that. It's wonderful. I just say, what took them so long? Mary Johnson Lowe was the class of 1954 at Brooklyn Law School, and she was the editor-in-chief of the Brooklyn Law Review, and a judge of the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York, and she was the second African-American woman appointed to the federal judiciary. She also served as an executive board member afterwards of the Brooklyn Law Review. Dorothy Chin Brandt, the class of '74, was the first Asian American woman judge in New York and the state's first elected Asian American public official. David Dinkins, as you know, class of '56, was served as the first and to date the only African American mayor of New York City. Benjamin Ward, the class of '65, was the first African American to become New York City Police Commissioner. Herman Badillo, class of 1954, the nation's first Puerto Rican-born congressman who opened the door even wider for Latinos in law and public service, as did John Caro, class of '52. He's been described as the New York Times as a legendary justice. He was a judge for 25 years. He was involved in many high-profile cases. He was the first Puerto Rican to be named to the New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division. So there are, and then of course Peter Tom, class of '75, Associate Justice in New York State Appellate Division, First Department, who had a long list of first in the legal arena. Louis Bedford, class of 1950, was the first African-American judge in Dallas County, Texas, who came to Brooklyn Law School because segregation prevented him from pursuing a law degree in his own state. I could go on, and I won't, but I just think that those very impressive examples demonstrate what we are talking about and why it's so special. One of my colleagues, when we were talking about honoring Judge Freier, was saying, well, you know, and it was almost tongue-in-cheek, saying, if we honor people who are first, we're going to be doing nothing but having these celebrations because we have so many. But certainly that's a very happy predicament, and you are truly unique in many respects. I think before I ask you a few questions, I just ask you if you had any comments to begin.
Yes, yes. First of all, I want to thank you, Dean Allard. I want to thank Caitlin Monk, standing in the back over there, for all her hard work in putting this together. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to thank Brooklyn Law School. Brooklyn Law School accepted me as a student. I earned my law degree while studying here for 4 years. Those were 4 great years of my life. And I have this opportunity now to say thank you. And saying thanks is something that I've learned. And the Mishnah, which is a precursor to the Talmud, gives us a quote, and I want to quote this from chapter 6. And it says that one who learns from his fellow man a single chapter, a single rule, a single verse, a single statement, or even a single letter, must treat him with honor. And we find this from King David. King David, who ruled over Israel in the year 1010 to 970 BCE, he learned just 2 words from his counselor, Achitophel, and he called him my teacher and my guide. How much more so do I have to thank Brooklyn Law School for giving me my law degree and for making all this possible. Yes, my family, my husband, my parents, they were all there to support me, but it was Brooklyn Law School that made it all possible. So thank you for allowing me. I also want to let you know, Dean Allard, that since 2005, I wear my Brooklyn Law School ring every single day. That's how important Brooklyn Law School has always been to me. Nope.
That's
I
great.
wear it
That's
every
wonderful.
single day.
That's wonderful. Thank you very, very much. Well, those are very kind and generous words. We heard about the impact that your family had, and while we're quoting the original bestseller, Ecclesiastes, 1. We know about the eternal cycle of water, which is very emblematic of the cycle of people and the length of family and starting at the beginning again. And you certainly are part of a great tradition where you draw on many people going before you, but the things that you've done are really, really important for those who will go on later on. And we're very, very grateful and honored to have you here. Now, you, before you went to law school, you were a legal secretary and a mother.
Yes.
And what was your aha moment? When did you think, well, I can be a lawyer? What gave you the courage to apply to law school when that wasn't something that was very common? In fact, it was virtually unheard of in the Hasidic Jewish community.
So that's a great question and one that's commonly asked. So yeah, there was an aha moment, but really it was a long process. This didn't happen overnight. It was a very slow evolutionary process that was distilling in my mind. And I was very content being a legal secretary, and I grew up in a nice Hasidic family, and in those times, there was no college opportunities for the girls that graduated. Since then, many opportunities have arisen. So I was very content with my high school diploma. I took a course to be a legal secretary, and I was very happy. And I would get better jobs, and I was getting paid more. I was making more than some of the men that I knew. That was a great feeling until I started working for lawyers that were younger than me. Then something hit me. Wait a minute. Am I going to be a secretary my whole life? And at that point, I was 30 years old. So if you do the math, that was more than 20 years ago, just about 22 years ago. And I said, I have to do something more. I have to try. I don't want to be a grandmother and tell my kids, Bobby could have been a lawyer, but I have to at least try. So that was the aha moment. And in terms of the courage, to me, I think courage is faith. I mean, if you have faith, you believe that God runs the world, anything's possible.
Well, so you made it to law school after your aha moment. You had the courage to apply to come in. You arrived. Talk a little bit more about your experience here. Was it comfortable? Was it challenging? Who were some of your mentors? Whatever.
So I was really very nervous because while I did have exposure to the secular world, I had been a secretary in large Manhattan law firms, and I knew how to integrate and balance myself in the secular world. This was the first time I was going into an academic environment that was totally secular. And I was very nervous, and I heard that law school was really very tough, but I heard about a great woman called Dean Carol Ziegler, who was the dean of students at that time. And I was told, well, try to have an appointment with her and see if she can help you. I met with her, and we were in the school cafeteria then, and I was like, whoa, this place is gorgeous, it's humongous, will I get accepted here, will I make it here? And I said to her, I said, Dean Ziegler, thank you so much for meeting with me, and I want to go to this school, but I have 6 children, and I don't want to fail, I want to succeed. How can you help me? And she was so nice. She said, we're going to make the first year easier for you. And that's what she did. She bent over backwards. She arranged my classes in such a way that it was a lighter load that first semester, and then I made it up during the summer. And I found that the faculty here at Brooklyn Law School was extremely supportive. Many of the professors that I had, and we heard from Judge Kelley and Professor Wasserman and Suzanne Dennis, so many of the professors that I had, and were just incredible. Just incredible. And Anita, you were also there. All my professors were just supportive, helpful, and they just taught me the law in a way that I was just so glad to be here. And like Professor Kelley said, I always was like in either first or second row in the center, because if I was here at my age with all my kids, I'm going to make the most of it. And it was really just an absolute
So
great
you were a very
experience.
serious student.
I was, and also Professor Twersky was an inspiration for me. I come from the Bubble's community, and here I was in a secular environment, and I saw that black felt hat in the law school. That was something that I was very familiar with the long black coat. So I felt, okay, it's almost like home here. And Professor Twersky wasn't just a professor. I couldn't get into his torts class. That's how popular Professor Twersky's classes were. I did get into his products liability class, but not torts. I tried pulling string. I couldn't get into his torts class. And I even had one classmate who asked me, Rachel, tell me, are all Jewish men like Professor Twersky? Because if they are, I'll convert. So that's the kind of support
That's really remarkable. Now, I want to talk a little bit about diversity and cross-cultural interaction. So, you know, it's my view, and I think it's been really in the DNA of this law school to be diverse, not only because it's the right thing, but it's also the smart thing. Yiddish Cup, right? It's a smart thing. So, you know, the world is diverse, and so if you are not used to being in an environment where you're with people who represent the full variety of the world, when you go out into it, you're at a disadvantage. That's my belief. You did a lot while you were here to introduce cross-cultural interaction. Could you talk about that a little?
Sure. So one of the things that I've noticed when I've started working and practicing is that most Hasidim are very shy when it comes to the media and publicity. And I realized that that puts us very often at a disadvantage. Because if people don't understand us, they will make assumptions. And most of the time, those assumptions are wrong. So if you're not going to give the public a chance to hear the truth, they're going to have misassumptions, if that's a word. Then when something negative comes out about the community, that's going to always be blasted in the media, but all the good will never get out there. So my idea was I wanted to share my identity. I also felt deep down I was really nervous. That's the truth. I was nervous. I was coming in. I know that I'm different, and my Hasidic community is very important to me. And I didn't want to compromise my values. So I felt that maybe in a way of protecting myself was just to be out there and open and blurt it out. Tell everybody right away. I'm married, I have 6 kids, and you know what? It worked. I never got invited to parties. No one ever invited me to any of those things. And it was wonderful. It was really great. And part of my sharing the culture was having the holiday events. So it was my combination of wanting to clear misconceptions. It was my love for Jewish outreach. I was able to help 2 Jewish women actually become more religious while I was in law school. It was a great experience. So by sharing, I learned about other people, and I hopefully cleared misconceptions.
Well, I'm sure you did. You know, we have a sukkah here, and it took me a year, and we got it painted, and then it took me another year, and we got it decorated. So we're gradually moving, you know, in the correct direction.
I have a funny little story to share with you. So when I would do my holiday events, it was the security guards, the officers that were downstairs in the front. They would always help me. I would always be schlepping in my props whether it was the homemade challah, or whether it was my son's keyboard because he would play the music, or my sister would come. Whatever it was, they always helped me. So when it was right close to graduation, I went over to them and I said, you know, I'm going to miss you guys. You were all so nice and so helpful. And they said to me, yeah, we're going to miss you when your little book. I said, my little book? What are you talking about? Our law school books are so heavy. So I'll tell you, I pray 3 times a day, and that's very important to me. And I was looking for a place when I came to the school. Where was I going to say my afternoon prayers? I'm not embarrassed. I could just stand in the library, but I wanted a private place. So someone told me that the hallway behind the cafeteria, where there's like a fire escape, you know what I'm talking about. So if you stand over there, you'll say your prayers, no one's going to see you. And it worked. For 4 years, I thought no one saw me. I didn't realize there was a security camera. So after 4 years of praying my mincha services at that secret hallway, he told me, we're going to miss you because we're going to miss seeing you with your little book. So Brooklyn Law School offered me everything, even a private place to daven mincha.
Semi-private.
Semi-private,
Well, we've got a lot more cameras now, but well, you know, I think as long as there are exams, there's always going to be prayer in law school, but but that's wonderful, and it's also a great insight. So you had remarkable determination, resolve. We're hearing that, and you were very focused. But in addition to becoming a lawyer, you were already engaged in public service. You worked with at-risk youth. We heard about that. You launched Ezra's Nashim and the first all-female Orthodox Jewish ambulance corps. You're an EMT. I don't think many people realize that. And I've heard that your physical strength is quite impressive, including carrying down a flight of stairs, a very large man as part of the training or service or whatever. So, but you took over a year to train. Talk about that experience and what you drew and how it relates to your legal work.
Sure. So I became an EMT together with my mother. We took the EMT course together. But then I became a paramedic, which was another 1.5 years of training. And the reason why I did it, and the reason why I started the B'derach program also, was because I felt that there were people who were distorting our religion and our culture for their own vested interests. And people were hurting because of that. When I heard that there were women who wanted to serve our community as EMTs for over 30 years, but were blocked from doing so by people who said that it's not modest for Jewish Hasidic women to do that, I felt I had to correct it. I felt I couldn't just sit by and watch this travesty go on another 30 years. So it was a very strong uphill battle. But I said then, and I said the same thing to the boys at B'derach, if I became a lawyer just for this cause alone, it was worth it. But I have to really backtrack, Dean Allard, because when I first came to Brooklyn Law School, I really was very nervous. And I said that before, and I'll say it again. So anybody out there who's going to hear me speak now, if you're nervous about doing things, it's okay. It's okay, because things can work out. But I made my deal with God, and I said to him, God, if you help me get through these years of law school without compromising my standards, when your children come to me for help, I will help them. Well, let me tell you, God wasted no time in testing me, because very shortly thereafter, it was the boys who were crying. I didn't have enough tissues in my office for the tears that these kids were shedding. And I realized those are not bad kids. They're making bad choices. And I got into the trenches with them. And I changed as a person, and I changed as a mother. And it was that experience of working with kids at risk and the experience of working in emergency medicine, which is actually helping me the most on the bench in criminal court. All my sole experience in real estate transactions and closings and multi-million-dollar refinances are really irrelevant on the criminal court bench.
You sound like somebody not to be underestimated at all. And that's very interesting, because elected to the civil court, assigned to the criminal bench, but you're ready. And you've had those experiences because you went out and embraced getting that kind of experience outside of the legal curriculum. You're new to the bench, but tell us a little bit about what it's like, you know, what your impressions are, and how it's going? Maybe some surprises or...
It's incredible. It's an amazing experience. I want to thank my supervisor, Judge Yavinsky, who's sitting right here, for being an incredible, supportive supervisor, for making work actually fun. It's exciting. It's a challenge. I'm always being pushed to the limit sometimes, but it's an incredible experience. I will tell you that it's only through family and faith that I was able to get to this point. It's faith in knowing that if God put me here, there's a reason for it, and I can pull through, and I can make it happen. My husband has been my greatest supporter. If not for him, see, it's not me that's the first Hasidic judge. It's my husband who's the first Hasidic husband who allowed his wife and supported his wife and financed my campaign and really made it happen, because if not for him, we all wouldn't be sitting here. That's the absolute truth. So I thank my parents, and I thank my in-laws, and I thank all my children. But it's my courageous husband who ran around. He ran to all the rabbis that he knew. Let me show you something, Dean Allard. This was a Yiddish campaign palm card. And on the back of it, all in Yiddish, is lots of signatures from rabbis who endorsed me, thanks to my husband. And that's how I won.
Well, so you had an excellent campaign manager.
Oh, yes.
He turned out the vote.
Oh, yes, he sure did.
That's great.
So, you know, being on the bench in criminal court is truly an amazing experience. It's real life. It's real life. It's human beings who are standing in front of me, and I'm looking at them and I'm thinking to myself, why are they here? Whether they're 17 years of age, or whether they're 57 or 67, I'm learning so much, and I'm learning about this great city that we live in and the great programs and treatment plans that there are accessible in the criminal court. We don't just sentence people, we really try to help them in criminal court. An amazing eye-opener for me.
Well, I guess the first obligation is not conviction, it's justice, right? So,
absolutely.
And that's the watchword. I have two more questions for you, and then maybe, with your permission, could we take some from the audience?
Absolutely, sure.
You don't have to answer them, but we take the questions. So, my first of my last two questions are, what would you say to women who are considering going to law school? And what would you say to Hasidic women going to law school?
Go for it. Go for it. So I want to just thank my colleagues on the bench of criminal court. And this is really going to be a lesson for the ones who want to do the same thing and get a degree and get an education. So in criminal court, there's night court because people get arrested throughout the day and throughout the night. So all the judges have to take turns doing night court. So night court is Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. No problem, I'm willing to do it, but you see, I have a little bit of an issue. Friday night and Saturday night, I just can't be here. No matter what, I can't be here. And my incredible colleagues on the criminal court bench sat down, spent hours readjusting their schedule so I don't have to come in on Friday night and Saturday night. And if they can do that for me, there's great people out there. Don't let your religion... There are great people out there, and if you go with the right attitude and you have faith that God runs the world, it'll work out. Yes, I did night court, and yes, I did not have to go on Shabbos, and thank you. Judge Yavinsky, can you just stand up? Because I spoke about you so many times. Just stand up.
And you know, we work out the class schedules here too, so that we're not interfering with Shabbat. So I hope that everybody in this room gets the word out that we'd like to see a lot more Rachel Freiers applying here. And I really mean that. As many students of Jewish faith as we have, I'm always amazed that we don't have more, because I can't think of a more perfect law school for that community. Okay, so my last question, and you don't have to answer this, and I don't mean to end on a downer, but something I've been thinking about, and this is not a question that we discussed, but I'd like to have your reaction if you're comfortable, with what is your take on the appalling rise of anti-Semitism in America and around the world, and what do you think that can be done about it? I mean, what needs to be done? What can be done? How do you explain this? Go ahead.
So in terms of anti-Semitism, it's a different form than what we've experienced in the past. In the past, it came from the top. It came from the government, it came from the rulership, it came from leadership. As opposed to what we're seeing now, it's coming from the lower level up. And the government is trying to deal with it. So it's very, very different than what we experienced in the past. And I think that what we're doing here tonight, and what I've always tried to do, may be the anecdote for it, is to share more of why we do what we do. So, for example, in the Hasidic community, men and women don't shake hands. It's not a hard and fast rule like Shabbos or kosher food, but it's one of these traditions that it's important to me. So there's two ways of dealing with it. You could avoid the person and just like try to slip away or keep things in your arms and never explain it. Or be more open and explain, this is part of my culture, I can't shake your hand, but we can still be friends. I think if we do more of that, that may counter the anti-Semitism. No, I'm not an expert, that's just my own feeling, and maybe it's more one-on-one and open forums like this. Hopefully that would be a solution.
Well, thank you, and thanks for being gracious enough to take that question. I mean, I think every little thing that everybody can do constantly one-on-one is helpful, and just getting to know each other is incredibly important. One of the things, if you don't know folks, but if you are in a community, law school community where you're understanding, you begin to appreciate things that you don't understand, how difficult it is. Not just for Jewish students who, you know, if you appreciate, well, even the simple act of shaking hands can be an issue, so there's something else that you have to be thinking about. But then, similarly for Jewish students and others, to be thinking about challenges that other students face, including, you know, if they have dietary restrictions, you know, getting a meal someplace may not be so easy, and that puts a little extra burden. So, something we have to work on. It's unfortunate, but we feel very deeply about it here, and we're very supportive. I should note, and we thank with gratitude, as you did, our incredible staff who make these kind of events possible. This is a remarkable thing, but in the last 5 years, we now have, this is a real number, it's not one of my own son said that I put the BS in BLS. But this is a real number. We have 9 times as many events, many of them with the outside community, as we previously had, and we're only able to do that with our incredible staff who run this, especially Caitlin Monk. And our communications director, Clorinda Valenti, in the back, who prepares me and gives me great words often, all the time. Any mistakes I make are surely not hers, they're mine. So we're very, very grateful for that. I'm very happy to see among the others I've called out, the chairman of our Board of Trustees, Stuart Subotnick. He's a shy person, but he doesn't like to, but this is the Subotnick Center, so he's made tonight possible in a very concrete way, literally concrete. And we're just glad to have everybody here. Are there any questions from the audience? Anybody? I mean, Judge Freier said this was some of you were bashful, but I don't believe it. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I get the sense you're a very compassionate person. I think that's kind of why you got involved in so many different community issues, etc. As a criminal court judge, do you have any approach towards sentencing a defendant and what your role is in the court, you know, to the extent that kind of, you know, you have your background and now you're kind of in a, sorry, I don't know if anyone could hear me, but.
Yeah, tell us your name.
Naftali Dembitzer, class of '92, I'm proud of it.
Now, while the judge is composing her thoughts, there are going to be some questions that she's not going to be able to answer, and as her informal unpaid attorney, I would advise her not to answer. But this may or may not be one of them.
Well, I would just say I try to be as fair as possible.
That's a great answer. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Hi, Sarah Klugman, class of 2019. How did you prioritize your life? Obviously, you had a lot of responsibilities.
Great question.
What's the advice that you can give?
So when I was doing my undergrad in Truro, I was able to be an A student, but I knew that going to law school, I would have to give that up. I knew that I wasn't even going to try for law review. A lot of things were just way beyond what I was going to be able to do. But I was always going to cook supper every night. I was going to be a mother. I was going to make challah for Shabbos. So I had my priorities, and I stuck to it. And my mother was always at my side. So if the kids had ear infections or strep throat infections, they always had a babysitter. It's knowing what's important and just not giving up on it. You can do it. You know what's important. I don't have to tell you what's important. You know it.
Thank you.
Okay.
There was another question over. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Molly Levin, 2012. As a Jewish woman and a mother and a lawyer, I find your story very inspirational, so thank you. And I wanted to know, maybe this is a more general and politically correct version of the question that was asked earlier, but obviously on the bench you're applying the laws of our country, but I'm wondering if Jewish legal concepts influence your thinking, have influenced your legal thinking through law school and also now in your career?
I think that Jewish legal concepts influenced the Constitution and influenced our founding fathers. And when you see in God we trust emblazoned on the courtrooms, I think that comes from our Judaic values. So I just continue the tradition. And I just think I have...
Could be a song.
Yeah, I have great mentors in the criminal court. I'm told that if you ever have a question, just second call it and reach out to us. And there's a very large overlap of what we've learned in terms of our Judaic values, in terms of our American values. There's no contradiction.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Howard Copello, 75.
Oh, thank you. Good to see you, Howard.
I don't really have a question. I just want to add a little bit more context. I want to add a little bit more context. I know Rachel, or as I know her, Ruchi, for, I don't know, it was about 30 years, 25 years?
Well, you had red hair then.
I had, right now, any hair that stays on my head can be any color it likes. That's my theory
I think I know
at this stage of the game.
It was probably 1983 or 84.
But who's counting? Anyway, I just want to say that Rachel is probably one of the most courageous people I know, and certainly, definitely the most energetic person I know. She's gone up against odds so many times when she went to college, when she went to law school, with the support of her family, and not necessarily with the support of her community, when she established the ambulance service, when she wanted to run for judge. You and I spoke, if you recall. I said, I don't know, that's not so simple. And she's determined, and if you want somebody on your side, if you want somebody who's going to get something done, this is the person. And when she sets her mind to it, she gets things done, and I just congratulate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
You know, I want to thank somebody.
Sure.
You know, you're all talking a lot about my work as a paramedic and my work in EMS, but yes, I had to fight a lot of people within my community, but I did have the help of some paramedics out there, and one of them is sitting here, and I want to thank Arthur Berkowitz for telling me. And Arthur, stand up. And now Arthur is going to teach me how to drive the ambulance. How am I doing, Arthur?
oh, you're still involved, you're still engaged, you're still working in that
Absolutely.
in your spare time. Okay. I think I have a solution to the energy crisis. Yes, go ahead.
Actually, I'm not a lawyer, and I was not affiliated at all with law school. However, as a family member, I happen to be Ruchi's aunt. She's my sister's child. And I have to say, I worked with her with a campaign throughout the whole campaign for 5 months, through heat and through all kinds of weather conditions. And I have to say, I'm awfully proud of my niece.
You got a lot of knockers, right?
I myself have 6 daughters, but from the time that Ruchi was born, she was so tiny
that we had to get her doll clothes to put on her. And we never know how tall a person could grow. They asked Abe Lincoln, how tall should a person be? Tall enough to reach the ground. And she has reached the ground and above. I'm certainly very proud of you, Rookie. May you continue, and we should reap a lot of nachas and joy from you forever, till 120. Thank you.
Well, I think that is a pretty good note to wrap up on. And first, before I completely wrap up, thank you, Caitlin. You see, I get a lot of help, right? We've got some Brooklyn bling here. You might want to open it up, yeah.
All right.
And I'll say that, can you manage?
It's heavy.
All right, well, if you can handle a guy going them down the stairs, I think you can handle this. But,
This is the perfect gift. This is the one thing I don't have. Order in the court.
okay, court is not adjourned yet. Court. So,
This is beautiful. Thank you.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
We're really proud of that. So, I try to give up bragging for Lent, but I'm belling beyond belief. I can't help myself. And, my wife Marla and I, as family, grew up together. Believably planned. Our families were like one family. And I learned, and my best friend, her dad, Ephraim, bless his memory, taught me. He said there's only one difference between Catholics and Jews. Over 2,000 years, we've learned there's only one difference. And that is that Catholics leave without saying goodbye. Jews say goodbye and never leave. And there's a lot of truth to that. But no one has to leave yet, because we're going to wrap up and continue these conversations. Chris, where are we? Upstairs? There's a reception upstairs for everybody. I hope you join. I thank you all for honoring us and for honoring Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you.